r/AskReddit is an ever-growing ocean of anonymous confessions, very useless facts, dark and disturbing encounters, and of course amateur writers trying to get clout with their edgy ARGs. Thankfully for you, I've filtered through the no-sleep submissions, failed ARGs, and the probably real but very not YouTube-friendly content. Of course, you can't always get it right, but don't worry. What I found is still 10 out of 10 fucked up, because we all know that's why you're here. What is the darkest, creepiest Reddit thread / post you have seen? Dry/OW posts the story about a guy finding a storage unit in the middle of the Australian desert. It was equipped with air conditioning and a TV. Turns out it was filled with CP. When they came back later with the authorities, it was on fire. Originally posted on r/Let'sNotMeet by Boroke111 12 years ago. OP states that they were 19. They worked as a day laborer in the most remote rural areas of Australia. The company he worked for operated like an agency that would send day laborers where they were needed. According to OP, the work varied and depended on what the property owners needed done. The hours were long, but the pay and having the right crew made it worth the work. Plus, personally, this sounds like great work for a young person. If this was an option in my area, I probably would have been in shape and not broke in my early 20s. This time, OP had been sent to an extremely large property just about the size of Maryland, USA, 9 hours from Sydney, one of the major cities of Australia, and 40 minutes from the nearest town. Secluded puts it lightly. I mean, if anybody wanted to hide a PDF dungeon, it seems OP found the right spot, literally. On this day, OP and 3 other guys of relatively the same age were clearing the bushland when their boss, Jeremy, a pretty laid-back guy, gave them the afternoon off due to the intense heat, which had reached about 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Boss man Jeremy let the guys know there was a small reservoir, waterhole, fit for a dip 25 minutes up the road, north. The 3 other guys were too beat from work, so only OP and boss man Jeremy decided to head up the bushland to find the spot. OP explained that boss man Jeremy wasn't much of a talker, so the first 20 minutes were mostly silence, until Jeremy perked up and asked OP, "Do you see that over there? Beneath the 2 dead trees?" Jeremy was pointing out an extremely out of place blue shipping container in the middle of inland, rural Australia, where the color palette consists of reds, browns, and, well, desert colors in between. So a blue, nonetheless seeming purposely misplaced shipping container aroused uneasy curiosity, especially since boss man Jeremy had allegedly been in the same area 5 weeks prior, with no sighting then. OP and boss man Jeremy pulled over, stopping just about 100 feet from the blue shipping container. A bad feeling washed over them. This foreign object didn't belong here. In fact, it only recently showed up, with no known purpose. Jeremy, on the other hand, was in more of an investigative mode. Since he was in charge of this property, anything that goes on here has to go through him. And he was as clueless as OP as to where this came from and what was it doing here. As they walked up to the shipping container, the loud roar of a diesel generator dominated the area. It looked as if it had been powering something inside of the shipping container. It was mixed with the buzzing of CCTV cameras, which surrounded the poorly padlocked container and actively followed the two back and forth as they walked closer. They were obviously being surveyed. OP tried getting Jeremy to leave it alone, fearing that with the level of security for this seemingly innocent shipping container, that they could be getting involved with something dangerous. However, Jeremy reminded OP this is his property, his farmland, this was his land, and whoever placed this here is trespassing, and he had every right to figure out what was going on, and he was adamant that he was going to find out what was inside. Keeping them from the truth was a small black padlock. It looked easy enough to break through, so that's what they did. Leading the charge inside, Boss Man Jeremy and OP cracked the small black padlock with a pair of bolt cutters that were in the back of the work truck. Upon cracking the door to the blue shipping container, a rush of cold air blew past them from the well-air-conditioned interior, thanks to the diesel generator that had been running prior to them arriving. OP stated that on a searing hot day like that, the cool air gave a quick sense of relief, which soon turned back into confusion upon seeing the wall-to-wall interface of desktops, server racks hosting large hard drives, mysterious plastic storage bins, and monitors placed right at the center, complete with rolling chairs. The continuous hum and beeping of this out-of-place server room was all that filled the room for the first couple of seconds after Bossman and OP broke in. Aside from the soft white noise providing air conditioning, OP states that walking into this was like an absurd dream where you know this shouldn't be here, but it is. It would be like walking into the uncanny valley itself. OP was sure that with all of the surveillance on the container, they sure had been seen by anybody on the other side of the cameras. However, Bossman Jeremy insisted that he was getting to the bottom of this whatever it took. So, both OP and Jeremy were novices when it came to using technology other than social media. But from OP's description, the monitors displayed several windows open and actively running tasks, such as LimeWire and Napster, which, from 1999 to the late 2010s, were infamous programs for peer-to-peer torrenting media, primarily music, but there were ways to transfer software, photos, and videos. We'll get to that soon. In fact, OP states that during all of this, both of these programs were actively sending and receiving packets of data, while other windows were open with what seemed to be a command prompt with computer gibberish on it. With all of this tech stuff being foreign to OP and Jeremy, OP decided to walk towards the far end of the container where the peculiar plastic storage bins were stacked. And this is when the truth of the highly secretive blue shipping container came to light. As most of you would have guessed by now, OP found the Diddy tapes. No, but seriously, as most of you would have guessed by now, OP soon found himself sifting through posters, DVDs, and photos, all of which displaying and containing CP. Like 3 boxes, 3 big storage bins of physical media's worth, and God knows how much was held in the server racks behind. The very microsecond OP's mind put 2 and 2 together, he recoiled in shock and intensely insisted to Jeremy that they get the fuck out, exclaiming, "Mate, get out, I'm not doing an Australian accent, I promise. Jeremy, get out. CP, go. Get the fuck up." You know, in a non-whispery voice. OP managed to drag Bossman Jeremy out of the shipping container from hell, and after managing to compose himself, explain what he had witnessed. Mountains of felonious depravities, neatly organized in smaller boxes and folders, like the work of a sick OCD PDF working overtime. Real sick shit. At this time, OP and Bossman Jeremy hopped back in the work truck as soon as possible, and sped back to the farmstead in order to call the police via landline, since Jeremy had forgotten the work satellite telephone. So a race back to the farmstead commenced. As soon as they arrived, OP and Bossman Jeremy successfully notified the police, which, unfortunately for them, the nearest police station is in a town 30 minutes away from the closest town to the farm. Yeah, so 2 towns over. It takes the police approximately an hour to arrive, which is pretty good time considering the remoteness of the area. Immediately upon arriving at the farmstead, OP and Jeremy hop in and guide the cops to the CP horde of hordes in the middle of rural Australia. Okay, buckle up because things are only going to get wild from here. After making it back from the farmstead with the caravan of police, the blue shipping container door was wide open with an intentional inferno devouring the contents inside. In a desperation to save the evidence, OP, Jeremy, and the cops tried their best with the 2 small extinguishers aboard the patrol cars, which sadly did very little against the raging flames. The fire department was an hour too late. By the time they arrived, the damage was done, the evidence destroyed. An official arson report was made, and no tangible evidence that OP had described on the phone was recovered. Let me rephrase that, because this goes deeper than burnt up evidence. All of the computer equipment had been physically removed before the flames even started, which means someone or several demented individuals were not only aware that the shipping container had been compromised and had plenty of time to pack up all the electronics and do God knows what with them, leaving nothing much but paper and cardboard for the flames to breed with. A commenter on this post pointed out that with the speed of which the operation was executed, the perpetrators are more than likely very, very close by, or at least were. OP clarifies that when they had originally called up the nearest police from the farmstead, he himself was so shaken up that he probably had not relayed the information as clearly as possible, leading the authorities to remain skeptical about the call and unsure if he was serious or not. Thus, aerial surveillance wasn't an option by the time they knew the perpetrators were on the run with the evidence. Unfortunately for bossman Jeremy, OP, and the potential alleged victims, the case quickly went cold, with not a shred of evidence remaining. OP states that they took a great interest. Unfortunately for bossman Jeremy, OP, and the potential alleged victims, the case quickly went cold with not a shred of evidence remaining. OP states that they took a great interest regardless, hoping something would eventually come out of the investigation, but nothing. Nothing remained but an empty blue shell of a shipping container, once a hoard of evidence to the sickest crimes known to humanity. Now sits a metallic husk full of ash and despair. Who and why? 2 vital questions whose answers were disintegrated with the inferno. Makes sense, since the answers would require you to find them in hell. After all this, OP kept contact with bossman Jeremy, and according to bossman Jeremy, the shipping container remains on the property on the vast rural farmland of Australia, too expensive to move and currently purposeless, other than to serve as a reminder that some humans living among us can get away with the sickest shit known to humanity, and sometimes nothing happens to them. Until it does.
The AFP has coordinated a joint investigation which has resulted in 13 children being rescued and the arrest of 19 men. These men were members of a technologically sophisticated online child abuse network that were operating across the country. What I can advise is the majority of these individuals were experienced in ICT or in current ICT roles, so they had a higher level of technical competency. Members of this network were using encryption, peer-to-peer network and other methods to avoid law enforcement detection whilst they were sharing videos and files of child abuse material.
I'm going to dedicate a future episode investigating if this massive sting operation could have been related to OP's experience. It honestly makes OP's 12-year-old story seem like it might have been a tipping point in exposing the ring of subhuman species. The PDF ring that was recently taken down consisted of online-based PDFs joining a Zoom call and sharing CP, where similarly, OP found a fully functioning server room with evidence of active torrenting, so clearly a massive online operation considering the content. And one more thing, I think I've narrowed down the alleged area and property where this took place to none other than Anna Creek, Australia, the only farmland with almost the exact size of Maryland. I want to give you this information in case you have no life like me, since I will be meticulously Google Earthing Anna Creek, since according to OP, as of 12 years ago, the blue shipping container had remained on property due to the high cost of moving it, allegedly. Thus, there is a possibility, maybe, you might come across a blue, innocent-seeming shipping container sitting out of place, possibly even before the fire. Maybe you'll find another. Allegedly. Please make sure to not take life too seriously. And if you need a break, stop watching YouTube. Don't watch anything. Just be. And rescue a cat.